Yeah, so I have started recording.
Oh,
So now let's start with our fixed asset module. I go to setup and maintenance, and
okay.
let me take the fixed asset offering, and let me try to configure. So if we speak about the fixed asset module, so similarly our enterprise structure, how we have enterprise as a global, and where we cannot change the enterprise structure or the enterprise name once we have defined it, we will have to use the same thing. Similarly, here in fixed asset, we will have to use the same the category and the location specific what we have defined at the initial stage. Okay. So since this is an mission environment, I will not be able to create a new category set since it has been already created. So what I will do, I will take each one of it and I will explain how it will work. Okay. So so let me start with the flex feed. So basically, if we speak about the fixed asset model, basically we have three flex feeds that we have to define. So one is category flex field, and the other is location flex field, and the other is asset key flex field. So what is each one of it? So category flex field is nothing but the pointer, or it is a validation how we wanted to categorize our asset, uh, majorly on the major and minor categories. Okay. So let me first get into the category structure and explain you how this has been defined and how it will work. So if you see here, we will not be able to see any of the list. Okay, we will see only category. Let's fit. So if we wanted to use second, or if we wanted to disable this particular structure and create a new one, we will have to disable, or we will have to uh, undo this enable option, and we will have to create a new structure. And this will have to happen before we create our system control. Okay. So since it is enabled, even if we try to create a new structure, it will not allow us to create the new structure. I'll also show you how it is restricting us. So before that, let's see what is category, major category and minor category. So major category is nothing but, maybe for example, we can take furniture. So furniture is our major category, and the table and desk, whatever we want to call, this is our minor category. So this is nothing but our parent and child relation concept, similar to that. So this is bit different from the actual parent and child concept. So this is what we call the major and minor category. Okay. So this is at high level, and similar to our GL configuration where we configured chart of account structure. So similar to that, we will have the structure code and API name, and we will have sequence, display with which segment we wanted to store, and the value set that we are using, and we will have label for each. So since this is major category, we have selected the major category segment label. Okay, similar to that, we will have the minor categories depend for it, where we will have the segment label as minor.
The default value set code will okay that automatically will change. Okay, so fine. Sorry. Yeah.
No, default value set, this is actually given by default. I mean, it is given by Oracle. This is seeded value.
Major itself. Okay.
Yeah, major
Okay.
and minor both. This is being given by Oracle. So if we wanted to create our own value set, then we will have to create a specific value set code, and then we will disable this structure what was given by Oracle. See,
Okay.
here we have enabled it. So let me try to create one structure. It will tell me that we can have only one structure. So there are two validations here. So one is it must enter no more than one enabled structure, and the other one is what do you call the 140 application key structure. So basically, it is saying that we cannot have more than one structure. So there is the validation that Oracle has given for the fixed asset module. So if we wanted to create our own structure, we will have to disable or maybe uncheck this enable option for the seeded structure. So after that, we will have to create our own structure. So then system will allow. But in this case, uh, uh, what do you call unchecking this enable option also doesn't make any sense because I'll show you how it will work. So we have basically the system control. So system control is the first option that we will make in terms of setting up the asset module. So if you see here, even if we make the changes and even if we make a new category flex field, we will not be able to attach it because once we have enabled this option, this is freezed. So this is at instance level. So instance in the sense for the entire Fusion application, this will apply. So if we wanted to create a new books or new things, we cannot change this category flex field or the location flex field. So this is common. So I'm not creating a new flex field. I have just explained how it is done and what are the ways that we can do. If we are going for the fresh implementation, then we can change this value. Okay. So for
Okay.
now, I'm just leaving as it is. And here, if you see the category flex fields that we have attached. So maybe we are taking a case of fresh implementation. So in case of fresh implementation, what we will have to do is that we will have to create a structure. We will have to attach it here with the category fetch field, location, and asset key fetch field. After attaching it here, we will have to load values for each category fetch field. So that is for the category major and minor, we will have to load it. Again, for the location, we will have to load it and for the asset key as well. Okay, this is one part. And then we have asset numbering. So from where do we want to start our asset numbering and what should be the last asset numbering that will be used in the system. Okay, so this are all are one-time setup. We cannot make any changes upon it. Okay, so this is our first setup that we will have to do in fixed asset module. Then we will have to set up the calendar. So when we speak about the calendar, we have three calendars in fixed asset. So one is we have the fiscal year, then we have the asset calendar, then we have prorate calendar. So what is the difference between all these three? The fiscal calendar is nothing but a yearly calendar. So we are creating a yearly calendar and we are attaching with the asset calendar. So asset calendar will be monthly. Okay, so if you see here, so we have just defined the year 2020. So that is starting from 1st of April to what do you call the December 1st. So the mid-year for us is July. So this we have defined it. And now we will have the depreciation or the asset calendar. So we have asset calendar. Okay. So asset calendar is for each period. So if we wanted to have maybe 365 days of asset calendar, we can have it. So that is based on the business need. So for our understanding, what I have given is I have given periodical depreciation. So most of the companies follow the periodical depreciation. So that is the reason we also taken the periodical depreciation. That is starting from January to December or maybe April to March. So we have taken in this case January to December. Okay. So what we have done it here is that we have created a calendar and we have informed the system that this is 12 period. Okay. And we have attached the fiscal calendar what we have created in the earlier setup. Okay. With this we have created the what do you call the asset calendar. The next step is to create the prorate calendar. So what is prorate calendar? So why do we need the prorate? The prorate we will use mostly when we say or when we talk about our depreciation and when we talk about our retirement and these options. So where we will have the prorate. Okay. So if you see here,
But sorry, sir. But you even mentioned the asset calendar. I mean, for the periodic calendar is also for the depreciation.
yeah,
That's what you mentioned, no, sir.
no,
Even for prorate, no,
no,
yeah.
yeah. So what I was referring to this asset calendar is that we can assume this as a depreciation calendar. So the reason being is that based on our asset calendar, we will define our prorate calendar. If you see here, so whatever the dates we have given there, the system has automatically picked up. And top of it, we will say the prorate date. So this is what we call the prorate calendar, and the what we call the asset calendar is something similar to our prorate calendar without the prorate date calculation.
So prorate is based on asset calendar and asset is based on fiscal, is it?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So we
Okay,
have
sir. Fine.
defined 12 periods. So similarly, we have got 12 periods here as well. And if you see this prorate convention, basically we have defined it and we have said that this is the fiscal year. Again, we have attached the, I mean, this will automatically populate. So we have the fiscal year and we have attached our reference data set. So when we saw on the initial classes, you might remember that reference data set is used for a specific business unit or specific ledger or a specific asset book. So in this case, we are using this particular setup only for this HWRDS one. So apart from that, no other reference data set will be able to use this particular prorate convention. Okay. So how we have decided our prorate convention is that end of the period. So if you see here, is the moment I select 31st of December or 31st of January, system will automatically calculate for the remaining periods. All I need to do is that I need to select the initial period, how I wanted to have my prorate. And prorate decision, it is upon business, but still it is not only on the end of the period. It can be on the start of the period. It can be also on the mid of the period. So how business wanted to have this convention, it depends on the requirement. So for our understanding, how I have taken prorate convention is that end of the period. So when we say end of the period, it is 31st of every month, 31st or 30th of every month. Okay. And here we have another option that is depreciate when placed in service. So what is depreciate when placed in service? So placed in service is nothing but when we are creating the asset. So that is what we are saying placed in service. So do we want to make or understand system that the moment we add the asset on a particular date, do we want to start the depreciation? So that is what we are meaning it here. Depreciate when placed in service. So as a usual practice, it has been followed that when we add the asset, we will start calculating the depreciation. So as a practice, we will enable this option, depreciate when placed in service. Okay. So I'm just saving our prorate convention, and I'm saving and closing this. Okay. So now we have created our calendar. So what is next step? So the next step is to create depreciation method. So how do we want to calculate our depreciation method? So there are different ways of having our depreciation method. Okay. So let me explain each one of it. So basically we have taken this straight line method as an use case. But apart from that, we have different other options to create. So if you take as an India localization, we have, I mean, as per the Company Act, we should have WTB, written down value method depreciation. So, I mean, for US and other places, maybe we can use this straight line method. So, basically, we will give the asset, I mean, the depreciation method, and then we will attach the reference data set. Then we have the method. How do we want to calculate our depreciation? So this depends on so this is basically the calculation part of it. So if you say here, so this is calculated. So the moment you give calculator, it will change to cost. So everything will be automated. So this is based on the cost. The system will calculate automatically based on the life that we have given for this particular depreciation method. Okay. Then we have flat. So what is flat? Flat is nothing but our what we call the regular rate. So this is what we will give for our standard rate for every period. So that is SLM or straight line method. So we say this is flat, and we can select either net book value or cost. So if you are selecting cost, so what system will do? Let's say we select we give the depreciation rate as 5%. So every period system will take 5%. So until this cost becomes zero, system will start. I mean, system will run the depreciation. The moment this asset cost has come down to zero, then system will not calculate, and which means this asset needs to be retired. Okay. So we have an option here, depreciate in year retired. So which means we wanted to have the retirement. Okay. And the other option we have is net book value. So instead of having the particular asset cost, it will take the book value of the asset. So if you see here, here we have two options. So we have the net book value, and the other one is depreciation basis value. So depreciation basis value, if you see, you have different values. Either we wanted to have the year-end balance, or if we wanted to have the transaction period basis, or do we want to take any sort of average out of it and calculate, or we wanted to have the beginning period. So as a standard practice, we will have transaction period basis. So transaction period basis is nothing but our periodical closure that we have it for depreciation run. Okay. Okay. So this is one method. The other one is formula. So if we are using this formula method, so what we will have to do is, let me give, so we have set of functions and formula for that. Okay. So if we have a basic understanding of the mathematical this thing, how this the calculation should work, then maybe we can add the formula here. So after adding the formula, so what we can do is we can test formula. so that the system will tell us that whether this is in what do you call the proper set of rules and validations. So after doing that, maybe we can close and we can attach this particular depreciation method with our categories and books. Okay. So this is formula type. And then we have the production. So what is production? So production, this depends, or this will work only for very few companies where they run the what do you call the manufacturing machineries. So let's say we have 10 machineries. So we don't wanted to have the what do you call the standard rates that will be followed for each year or the each period. So instead, how do we wanted to have it based on the machine runtime? So let's say I have 10 machines and out of it, I'm utilizing only maybe 6 machines. So I don't want to calculate depreciation for other 4 machines since I haven't used it. So we will have a depreciation run based on the production capacity or the production run that happened on a particular day or on a particular period. So that is what we call production method. So on the production method, again we have either it is based on the cost or net book value. Okay. And then we have table. So what is table? So table based depreciation is nothing but the values that the calculation basis and all those things will be stored in terms of the backend table spaces. So where the data will be stored in a particular table, and from there the depreciation and all those calculations will run. Okay. So for this again, we can give the year and period and the annual rate. So how do we want to run this particular depreciation? Okay. And apart from that, we will give the lifetime for this what we call the depreciation method. So these are the different methods that we have to create our depreciation method. So as a standard one for the purpose of understanding. So how we have taken this depreciation method is that okay, let me take this flat rate and let me take straight line method. So how we have defined is that we have just taken a simple case where we have given the name and we have attached it, and we have taken the flat, which is standard rate, and we have taken net book value. Instead of taking it at the I mean the asset cost, we have taken at book value. Okay. So we have given the rate for the depreciation. So we don't want to have any adjustments. So I'm just having the basic rate, that is 12%. Okay. The adjust rate would be again the 12. So this is our depreciation method. So I'm just saving this. So we have created our depreciation method. So after creating depreciation method, the next step would be creating the asset book. So what is asset book? So when we speak about asset book, so here we have two kinds of asset. So one is the corporate book and the other is tax book. Okay. So what is corporate book and what is tax book? So corporate book, it's okay. We understood that this is maintained for a company. So why do we wanted to maintain the tax book? So this will not apply for all the countries. So this is depends on the companies, I mean the country-wise tax laws. So maybe for India kind of companies, we will need India kind of clients, we will need the tax book as well. So the reason for it, so whatever the transaction that we are making in corporate book, so this will not represent the taxation part of it. So for this purpose, what we have done is that we have the tax book. So basically, we don't have any limit to attach tax book to this corporate. So we will create the tax book and we will attach this tax book with the corporate book. So that whatever transaction we are making in the corporate book, end of the day, end of the period, we can transfer those transactions to the tax book. So that this will act as a reporting part. Okay. So let's say we create or we add an asset or 10 maybe or maybe 10 asset. So we can have this transaction to be transferred to tax book. So that is the purpose of having corporate book and the tax book. Okay. So now we have created the corporate book. So now how do we understand that okay this corporate book belongs to this particular ledger? So we attach our ledger here, and whatever the calendars that we have created, we will have to attach it here. That is depreciation calendar, and then we have fiscal year calendar, and we have prorate calendar. So as I was saying, so fiscal calendar was only for the particular year. So where we will not mention the periods. Okay. So asset calendar or the depreciation calendar is the place where we will define each period. So how do we want to calculate our depreciation and all those things? So how is that system calculating this depreciation or the retirement? So this is completely based on the prorate convention or the prorate calendar what we have defined. So apart from the depreciation, we have something called retirement. So retirement will completely depend on our prorate calendar. So where the system will tell based on our what you call the date what we have taken. So for in our case we have taken the period end, that is 31st or 30th of every month. Okay, and then we have current period. So current period is what the actual period which will run for us. So which means we can take either maybe in our case it would be August. It would be first period. Okay. So how do we want to divide our depreciation? Whether it is evenly or by days. So we have chosen for evenly. If we take days, so maybe as I was saying, the other ways of having depreciation is that each day they will calculate the depreciation. So for example, the production based the depreciation method, we will have day wise. So for those kind of things, we can select days. Since we are selecting, we are taking only the straight line method, we have taken evenly. Okay. So this will tell us the last depreciation. So just now we are creating this. The system will tell that it is on maybe August 2nd. Okay.
Sir, like you mentioned about the corporate book and the tax book, so it is a general norm followed by foreign companies and a mandatory step to create a separate corporate book and create a separate tax book and then attach the tax book with the corporate, right?
Yeah. So this depends
And
on, yeah. So again, this depends on the company law of each country. So if we
okay,
have requirement to have tax book specifically, so if you take India or maybe some part of African countries, and if you take Singapore and US, this is mandatory to have the tax book. So what we will do, we will create a corporate book, and then we will create a tax book and we will attach with the corporate book.
so no, in the Indian scenario, you said usually people go only for the tax book, isn't it?
No, we will have to create corporate book and we
Corporate
will,
also, okay.
yeah, we will have to create corporate book and we will have to attach this corporate book with the tax book.
Okay,
So the
okay,
reason
sir.
for this is we cannot create any transaction in tax book. We can create transaction only in corporate book. So
Okay,
whatever transaction we are creating here in this corporate book, we will have to transfer it to tax book at end of the period.
okay,
So we
okay,
have
sir.
something called periodical mass copy. So what it will do is that it will copy all those transactions, what happens in this corporate book to the tax book. Fine.
Yeah, yes, sir. Fine.
Okay. So the other options what we have is that depreciate if retired in the first year. So whether we can depreciate if this is retired in the first year. So if we enable these options, maybe we can depreciate as well. Then we have allow amortization changes. So if we want to amortize the particular asset, should we allow the system to make the respective changes? So I'm not allowing the changes, I'm just giving as it is. And then if we want to allow the cost sign is nothing but whether it is positive or negative. So this also I'm just leaving as it is. And
So what's a positive sign, sir? I couldn't
positive
understand.
is something like maybe 100 rupees, and maybe minus 100 it is negative sign.
No, this is regarding the depreciation of the
No,
asset, or regarding, yeah. No,
no.
I couldn't understand the allow cost sign changes meaning. How do you refer that?
So let's say I have added an asset today, so which is costed around 10,000. So the existing cost of this asset is 10,000. So whether I wanted to change this asset cost to maybe minus 2,000 or something, whether should I allow the system to make the necessary changes to the asset cost. So if I allow this option, system will be able
Okay.
to make the necessary changes. But I
Okay.
don't
So,
want to
yeah.
have this the other cost signs changes. I'm not giving this option.
Fine. Fine.
Okay. Then we have the impairment. Impairment is nothing but whether we wanted to have any changes to the added asset if we wanted to have it. I'm not making this as well. And then we have allow ledger posting. Allow ledger posting is nothing but whether we wanted to transfer this transactions to our general ledger. So if we allow, maybe it will allow. So it should be allowed always. And then we have allow physical inventory. Physical inventory is nothing but just this is kind of an reporting part of it where we will just verify physically and we will update. And then we have allow leased asset. So leased asset is something that the asset is not owned by us, but whereas it is unleased, so that we can have. And then we have the use payable invoice as the date placed in service. So whether we wanted to use this, what do you call the date placed in service is nothing but the asset addition when we are using this asset to make it active and to start the depreciation. So do we want to use the invoice date for this date placed in service? So this is what which means use payable invoice date as date placed in service. Okay. Then we have allow unallocated payable invoice lines. So let's say we have imported an invoice from AP module, that is asset purchase, and now we have got this particular purchase into our FA module. So if we have 5 line items, so whether I can utilize only 4 line items and I can leave one item as an unallocated thing. So will the system allow me, or I should utilize all the 5 line items? So if I say allow unallocated payable line items, I can use this as well, which is not being allocated, but still I can be able to use it. Okay. Then we have suspend automatic merge of payable invoice lines. Okay. So this will basically restrict us to merge the payable invoice lines. Then we have use net book value threshold for depreciation. So when we are defining this, what we call the depreciation method, we had something called net book value. So whether we wanted to have a specific threshold limit for this particular net book value, so that we can define whether it is on month wise or how many months we want to have, and all those things we can define. If we wanted to use net book value threshold limit for it, so I'm not using this threshold thing here. So if you wanted to round off our depreciation, maybe if it is on two digit or the precision point 50, that if we wanted to maybe round off, we can round off here. Okay. Then we have the accounts. So the account is nothing but this is the default account. So this we are seeing at only the transaction level. So when we are importing from our external system, or when we are calculating the gain or loss for a particular asset, we will need this account info. So based on this account system will what you call the automate for the rest of the accounts what we have given for maybe the net book and net book gain or loss and the proceed of sale and all this. Okay. So what is net book value retired gain? So when we are retiring an asset, how do we want to calculate the gain of the asset? Okay. So maybe we could have overutilized a particular asset. So while we are retiring it, system will tell us whether this is a gain for a company or this is a loss for a company. Okay. Then we have proceed of sale. So proceed of sale is kind of an expense to us, where basically proceed of sale is nothing but we are using this to make what do you call to selling an asset. What are we including on it? So that is what is calculating here whether it is gain or loss. Then proceed of sale clearing. So this is part of it where we will have a clearing in between this. Okay, this will get knocked off when we have this gain or loss. Then we have cost of removal. So cost of removal is nothing but the cost that incurred to remove this asset. So that again will calculate the gain or loss. So this is again a clearing account for this cost removal. So all this part we will see when we are seeing this retirement. And then we have the deferred depreciation expenses. If we wanted to have or maintain the deferred depreciation expense, then we will have to give the depreciation deferred expense account and the reserve. Okay.
So can you give an example of what kind of industry opts for that threshold limit for the depreciation?
Threshold
Capital
limit,
gain.
I mean, we cannot segregate based on the industry. So it is based on the client's requirement, whether they don't, whether they wanted to have a control on their asset to have a particular, I mean, maybe we can say the manufacturing unit. So let's say the same case, I'm taking the same case on the production point of view, where we have 10 machines to have a quality production control, what we will say that we will have this machine utilized only until we have till we have maybe the 10 years period of time. So after 10 years period of time, they should be replaced with a new machine. Okay. So for those kind of scenarios, maybe we can have the threshold limit that I will use only for the 10 years period of time. So after that, I will replace or I will retire this particular asset.
Okay, fine, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So the next point that we have is that how do we want to attach our reference data set? So this is only on the access level. So basically we will give. So unless we have this access, we will not be able to do the respective the action items or the reference data objects. So if you see here, we will see bonus rules and we will have the depreciation method and all those things assigned here. So we will, as a default, we will assign our reference data set to these objects. Okay, I'll just show what we have created. I will just show. Okay, so this is our corporate book. So if you see here, this is our book name, that is HW book, and we have the corporate book classification, and we have selected our ledger, and we have the depreciation calendar and all those calendar what we have created attached here, and we have said that maybe for example for the purpose of understanding, we have taken the current period as February. Then we have taken as evenly, and then we have given few options that the allow posting and use the payable and use the unallocated payable invoice lines and all those things. And we have given the all accounts, and we have given the access for our reference data set. So the next setup is to create the categories and attach our books with the categories. Okay, so this is our category book. So let me just take this and try to explain what this is. So if you see, when we are looking at this category let's see, so we were seeing that we have a standard category flexible that we are using. So when I'm explaining that, I told that we will have to load the values for the each category. Okay. So for example, we have taken this particular category, that is extra building, and we have taken minor category as office premise. Okay. So this is our category, and we have informed system that this is not a lease, this is owned property, and this is being capitalized. And we have enabled this category to attach with the particular asset. Okay. Then we have asset book. So we have attached our asset book with category, and we have given the respective accounts. So when we are adding an asset, we will have the asset cost and the depreciation expenses and all those things calculated from this setup. Okay. So I have given the respective accounts, and the default rule is nothing but our depreciation rule. How do we want to calculate? So if you see here, so I have informed the system that they should depreciate, and we have said that depreciation method is SWSLM that we have created, and we have set up the rate for, I mean the depreciation rate, and then we have attached the prorate convention and the retirement convention. The prorate convention is nothing but mainly used for depreciation run and the retirement. So more than our depreciation run, this will be used for our retirement convention. So if you see here, I have attached the prorate convention and the retirement convention, both the same calendar. Okay. And the others are like the optional ones. So I didn't utilize the grouping of the asset and all those things. So I have taken the basic configuration, and I have attached the calendar with it. So now we are done with our category configuration as well. So what I'm doing is I'm just clicking save and close. So as I said, we will have to load the values for the categories, and we will have to create our categories and attach with our depreciation method and our asset book. So that is when we will be able to add asset or make any kind of transaction with this particular book. So I have closed this, and we have done with our setup for the asset module. Okay. So now, so what we have to do? So if you take the other modules, so in order to do the transaction part of it, we will have to open period. But here we don't have any concept of opening the period in asset. And we have another restriction in asset module. So once we close this particular asset book, so we will not be able to reopen the period. But whereas if we take the general ledger module and the receivable module or the other modules, we will be able to reopen. So there are two options, whether we wanted to close or maybe permanently close. But here, for the asset module, we will not be able to reopen our period. So this is one restriction that we have for asset module. Okay. So we have opened the period, and the role that we need to assign is asset accountant. So unless we assign the roles to the user, we will not be able to make any transaction. So I will show the roles that I have assigned. So if you see here, I have assigned two roles. So one is asset accountant and asset accounting manager. So these are the two roles that we will need to create or add asset in the system. Okay. So let me close this and let me navigate to the implementation project again, and where we will have to attach this particular role to the user so that the user will have access to create the transaction in asset module. Okay. So if you see here, I have taken the username, that is chn.chn, and I have added the role, that is asset accountant and asset accounting manager. And I have chosen the security context to HW books, that is our asset books. So we have given the access to user as well. So now let's log out from this user and let's log in from chn.chn, where we have given the access to the user. Okay. So we could see that fixed asset has been assigned, and let's go to asset. Okay. So click add asset. So let's take the category, and I mean the major and minor categories that we have created. That is extra building and extra office premise. So description, let me just enter some description, and let me give cost of the asset, and maybe let me give the unit and expense account. This is being picked up based on the setup, and let me click next. Okay. So we can see that description, cost, and all those things what we have entered there. And then we have the tag number. So tag number is nothing but our what do you call the, for each asset for tracking purpose. Mostly companies will use this tag ID or the tag numbers. So those numbers, if we wanted to use, maybe we can use it here. So these are all the additional information for the asset. If we want to
This,
give, yeah,
excuse me, sir. This tag number will be affixed in the asset, no?
yeah, yes, correct.
It's an identification number.
Yes, correct. For the tracking purpose.
Like a barcode, like that, they will
Yes,
do that. Huh?
yes, yes, correct. Okay. So now we
This
can,
tag number is auto generated, or we manually we have to give this
no,
tag number.
we have to give. So tag
Okay, okay.
numbers are basically generated using the barcode. So there
Barcode.
is a
Gotcha.
separate tool for it to generate
Okay,
the barcode number and all those things. So
okay,
from there we will take the data and we will attach the tag number here with the asset.
okay.
Okay. So here we can see that this asset is in use, and we can see this is in new. This is not an used asset. And let's give the asset key. So let me take the extra, the same thing. Then maybe let me give the employee assignment. Okay. So I have given the details of the asset. And let me try to submit this asset. Okay, there is validation. Okay, I think okay, let me add a few location.
So we need to add this in the location flex field, no, sir?
Yeah, is correct.
Okay, okay.
think there is some issue with this form actually. We should be able to select our location. Maybe I'll try to create a new location for this. Okay, so basically we have loaded few assets. So reason that why it didn't come is that someone has disabled at instance level. Always system will take the configuration at instance level, so it cause some issue.
So that nobody, I mean, changes it again. Is that the reason why they have disabled it?
No, no, actually someone was testing. So basically this is a Vision instance. So they will have access to make the changes. So they have just disabled it.
Okay. Okay.
So let me create.
But once you put the values in the key flex fields, you cannot change it at the later stage, no, sir?
I mean the system will allow, but basically we will have data corruption issues. So we should be a bit cautious since there is vision. People are making some changes on the
Okay.
existing structure.
Like in R12, when I was reading the document, you once you have put the values and everything in the key flex fields, you cannot change it at a later stage. That's what it was given there. So the same thing
Yeah,
holds good with Fusion as well, right? But you said there's an option of changing it.
yeah. No, the values is different from enabling or disabling the structure. Even in R12, if you see few segments, so you can disable. Similarly,
Yeah,
what has
correct, correct.
happened here is, so they have created they had a seeded structure. Upon this seeded structure, we have both things. One is category or the location, then location at structure. I mean at instance. So they have given it at instance and they have disabled at. I mean they have given it at structure and disabled at instance. So due to that, we are not able to create this location.
Okay.
We should be able to get location area market. Okay, so I'll update on two parts basically on the receivable adjustments and on the location why we are not able to get the list of values. So this is one part. So let's move on and maybe we will check at later point. Okay. So one thing is that we have added the asset, so we can manage. We can see manage assets where we can have or we can see how our asset is looking and all those information. And the other part is we have depreciation and the retirement to the asset. So how do we want to, I mean, manage our depreciation and all those things? So how do we run the depreciation in Fusion application? In R12, basically we will have a straightaway screen where we will run the depreciation. System will ask us whether to run the depreciation or run the depreciation and close the period. So similarly, here we have a column called depreciation. So we have the calculate depreciation. So if you click here, you have other option, calculate depreciation and close period. Similar option. I'll just give calculate depreciation. So let me navigate to schedule process. I think the addition itself didn't happen. Okay, let me check once. I think we should get location, but I think people had made some changes in instance. Okay, let's do one thing. Let's wrap up for today. Maybe I'll communicate on this part if.
Or else you can do one thing, sir.
Yeah.
Separately, you can record this and also you can send it. Also,
Okay, fine. Then I'll do that.
this
Okay, I'll.
once it get resolved, no, you can also record
Yeah, I'll check this and
this part
maybe.
itself.
Yeah, I'll send maybe in 1 or 2 hours.
No issues, sir. No issues.
Yeah. So maybe
Thanks.
just go through that video. Then maybe if you have, if you need any clarification on something, then we can have a session on that as well.
Sure.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, okay, fine.
Okay. Okay, sir.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
sir.
sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, good day.